Greetings, my name is Chamomile and this is an exploration of the entire galaxy sector by sector. Today, we're looking at Dustig Sector in 17th Chrome Shield Command of the trailing sectors of the Mid-Rim. This sector is ruled by the Gran, but it's not their home sector. Their home planet of Kinyen is in 3 Besh Sector, trailing from Chrome Shield. There are 2 species actually native to here, and the Dugs are a whole thing we'll get into shortly, but let's start small with the Zehethra, a kind of badger-looking people who live underground in dens dug between the massive roots of the trees of their home planet Zeheth. Except when the population gets high enough to require vertical building, at which point practicality demands they leave their cool root dens behind to live in the same giant steel rectangles as everyone else. Cath 2 was a rebel stronghold during the Mid-Rim Offensive, which the Empire recaptured during the Mid-Rim Retreat. The only word on exactly how that happened is that the rebels had strongholds in the Karm Trenches, abyssal, deep underwater trenches, and the Empire used aqua troopers to dig them out. I'm guessing the rebels were mostly Quarren or other species at home deep underwater, but the records don't say for sure. Harun Kal is a minor, mostly human colony world that would normally not be worth talking about. Every sector has 1,000-ish worlds with less than 1 billion inhabitants between them, and if we tried to talk about all of them, we'd be here all day, and also we'd mostly be saying stuff like literally nothing about planet Opari survived the Dark Age following the purge of the bureaucracy for hundreds of planets, but Harun Kal gets to be in the video anyway because this is Mace Windu's home planet. Harun Kal was a jungle planet and the site of a major battle between the Republic and Separatist forces in the Clone Wars. According to legend, this battle saw an ongoing civil war get pulled into the greater Clone Wars, with the older Balawai faction supporting the CIS while the Karunai faction, which had more recent colonial populations, supported the Republic. Neither of these are an actual native species. Harun Kal has no sentient native species, but the Balawai are supposedly descended from ancient marooned Jedi, while the Karunai are people from, like, Corellia or wherever who moved here for a job or something. According to legends, Depa Billaba went fully insane and committed a bunch of war crimes here and had to be brought in by Mace Windu. That's almost certainly not true, because in less than a year, Depa Billaba was a Jedi in good standing, fighting on planet Doom, which seems like a really short turnaround for a fallen Jedi to return to active duty, even given the Clone Wars made things pretty urgent. I said earlier that Harun Kal was a jungle planet. The pro-CIS Balawai faction on the planet didn't surrender when the rest of the CIS did, and the Empire eventually used orbital bombardment to flatten a huge chunk of the planet, heating the air so much that the oceans began to boil in places. The environment wasn't so totally destroyed that replanted trees weren't able to start regrowing 30 years later, but reports on the ground said that stormtroopers far outside the targeted areas started convulsing during the attack, so that's some pretty extreme devastation. The most famous planet in this sector is undoubtedly Malastare, homeworld of the Dugs, and yes, that does say a lot about how well known the planets in this sector are. The Dugs were vaguely aware of the greater galaxy, but got introduced to the Republic properly at the very beginning of the High Republic era, when a bunch of Grand colonists set up the Grand Protectorate on Malastare, and the Dugs objected on the grounds the planet was already occupied. The Republic resolved the resulting war by splitting the planet between the Gran and the Dugs, and then giving Senate representation to the Gran of Malastare and not the Dugs, which you'd think the Dugs would hold a grudge over, seeing as how this is their home planet, and the Gran homeworld of Kinyen is doing just fine. They could just go live there, or colonize any of the many habitable but uninhabited planets in the galaxy. But I guess the Dugs didn't really mind, at least not enough that they didn't join the Republic and remain loyalists during the Clone Wars, which is when the Republic deployed an experimental anti-droid weapon on their planet and accidentally woke up an ancient kaiju. That being said, any accusation that the Zillo Beast incident was a result of a species disregard for the value of Dug life doesn't hold up to reality, because the Republic's Zillo Beast-related mad scientist also wrought havoc on Coruscant. So, you know, the murders are equal opportunity. It kind of paid off for the Dugs, though. Like, strategically, signing the treaty to give fuel to the Republic war effort in the Clone Wars bumped the Dugs way down the Empire's shit list in the Imperial era. An Imperial remnant, Grand General Kenner Loring, entrenched himself on Malastare in opposition to Fleet Admiral Gallius Rax's control over the Empire after Endor. Gallius Rax learned that Kenner Loring's remnant on Malastare was hostile towards him and conspired to get the Ascendant rebels to destroy Loring on his behalf, and then Gallius got himself killed on Jakku, which makes Malastare one of those planets, like Kashyyyk and Mon Cala, that were de facto New Republic worlds even before the government was officially declared on Coruscant. Also, back in the late Republic era, there was a Dug crime lord named Sebulto who made death sticks contaminated by mind-controlled Dugs on behalf of a dark side cult called the Bando Gora. Jango Fett killed Sebulto while hunting down the Bando Gora's leader, Kamari Vosa. I didn't want to work that in chronologically because it muddied the transition from Dugs getting screwed by the Republic over the Grand Colony and Dugs getting screwed by the Republic over the Zillo Beast, but it's a cool story and I don't want to leave it out, so here it is at the end.